Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the March 18th meeting of the Yakima School Board. We're glad you joined us this evening. To begin this evening, I'd like to note that we offer Spanish interpretation services from Mary Ivy from Language Connection. If you need translation assistance in person, please check with Mary. I'm sorry, I mispronounced it. Please translate this information for us. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. Buenas tardes. Tenemos el servicio de interpretación en la parte de atrás. Pueden pasar por los auriculares. Thank you. Gracias.
Thank you so much. If you wish to make public comment this evening, there are two options available for you. The first option is for commenting on agenda items only, and the second option, which comes towards the end of the meeting, is for all other topics. In order to speak tonight, you will need to sign two forms, the sign-in form and the guidelines form. Both, I think, are located in the back of the room. Barb, would you please take the roll?
Director Rice,
Here.
Director Walker,
Here.
President Beckett,
Present.
Vice President Villanueva, and Director Raymond Navarro Jr. are excused.
Thank you, Barb. Would you please join me, rise if able, and help me with the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States
of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
March's character word of the month is collaborative, promoting working together effectively to achieve common goals.
Today, the schools of the Yakima School District rest on the ancestral lands of the 14 confederated tribes and bands of the Yakima Nation.
Hoy las escuelas del Distrito Escolar de Yakima descansan en las tierras ancestrales de las 14 tribus y bandas confederadas de la nación Yakima.
The people of the Yakima Nation inhabited more than 12 million acres.
La gente de la nación Yakima habitó más de 10 billones de acres.
Across Adams, Benton, Chelan, Douglas, Franklin, Grant, Kittitas, Klickitat, and Yakima counties.
En los condados de Adams, Benton, Chelan, Douglas, Grant, Franklin, Kittitas, Klickitat, y Yakima.
Today we honor those native peoples who are tied to the land through history, legends, and culture.
Hoy honramos a estos pueblos originales que están vinculados en la tierra a través de historias, leyendas y culturas.
We acknowledge the descendants who live in the world today.
Reconocemos a sus descendientes que viven en el mundo de hoy.
We thank the caretakers of this land who have lived here and continue to live here since time immemorial.
Agradezcamos a los guardianes de la tierra, quienes han vivido aquí y continúan viviendo aquí, desde tiempos inmemoriales.
An acknowledgement is a simple, powerful way to show respect.
Un reconocimiento es una manera simple y poderosa de mostrar respeto.
And a step toward correcting the stories and practices that erase indigenous peoples' history and culture.
Y un paso hacia la corrección de las historias y prácticas que borran la historia y la cultura de los pueblos indígenas.
It also honors the truth. También honra la verdad. As a school district, we will continue to build upon our relations with the Yakima Nation.
Como distrito escolar, continuaremos fortaleciendo nuestras relaciones con la nación Yakima.
We have two recognitions this evening. Director Walker will help us with the first, which will be our School Retirees Appreciation Week recognition. And Director Rice will help us with the second, which will be our National Board Certified Teachers recognition. So, Norm, take it away. Did I do them backwards?
We're reversed. There's some.
Thank you. Thank you for being on top of that, both of you. Appreciate that.
Go ahead, Martha.
Tonight, I am honored to be able to recognize members of the School Retirees Association for Yakima County. This is retirees School Retirees Appreciation Week, March 17 to 23, 2025. The Yakima County School Retirees Association is one of 28 local units which comprise Washington State School Retirees Association. YCSBA is the largest unit in the state with nearly 1,500 members, both active and retired school employees. Washington State School Retirees Association works for the maintenance and improvement of pension benefits for all school employees. The Board of Directors urges community members to join us in expressing appreciation to school retirees for the dedication and hard work and for their continuing support of education in Yakima County. As I read your names, if you're here, please come up and run the route and shake our hands, and then Stacy has a certificate for you all. Yakima County School Retirees Association officers. Debbie Dougherty, Secretary. Thank you for everything you did. Kathy Fletcher, Member at Large. Corinne Fortin, Welcome Committee. John Osageda, Health. Thank you. Nick Schultz, Member at Large. Millie Stone Stengen. Sorry, Sunshine Committee. Sorry, I messed up your name. Linda Sumner, Member at Large. Kathy Schultz, Unit Contact. Congratulations, thank you. Lilia Whitmont, Treasurer. Ula, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Carolyn Wilson, Assistant Treasurer. Sandy Gavin, WISH Coordinator, Web Coordinator. Larry Scholl, Legislative. Norma Haney, Journal Liaison. Peggy Young, Social. Norma Haney, Journal Liaison. Jan Saxton, welcome. Thank you for Paul Schaefer, Retirement. The retirees have a retirement committee. Isn't that cute? Thank you for coming, Paul. It's good to see you. Peggy Campbell, Historian. And Patrick Walsh, Membership. Please join me in a final round of applause for all of these folks who spent hours and hours in our district. They touched thousands of children's lives during their tenure with us, and we thank them for everything that they've done. We've got picture opportunities. So if you want to join us up front, if you're standing in front of the thing, Kirsten will take your picture. And if you have family members that you'd like to have join you for a second picture, please ask them to join you as well. What?
Next up, we have a recognition of this year's National Board Certified Teachers. The Yakima School District is proud to announce 5 more teachers have earned certification from the National Board of Professional Teaching Standards. To earn this honor, these teachers went through an often grueling year-long introspective process, which included creating a portfolio of work to document their performances in the classroom, and a series of tests to measure their knowledge in the subjects they teach. Congratulations to these teachers. And please do the same thing. When I read your name, come through and we'll shake your hand and present you with a certificate. Bianca Barragan Luna from Martin Luther King. Jamie Holden, Washington Middle School. Elissa Russell, Adams Elementary. Jacqueline Silva, Roosevelt Elementary. And finally, Paul Voorhees, Lewis and Clark Middle School. Thank you, Paul.
And again,
come back up for a group photo, please.
yes, we'd love to catch a photo.
And their work isn't done. To maintain that certification, they need to continue to gather data and submit data over the next few years as well.
Thank you, Kirsten, for helping with the photos. We also want to thank everybody from both our School Retirees Association group and our National Board Certified Teachers group for being here tonight. We also understand that it is a Tuesday night. And if you have things you would like to do, we will completely understand. We will take a brief minute here before we move on with the agenda. If you would like to move on with your evening, we won't take it personally. Not this time anyway. But again, thank you all so much for being here. We're really, really grateful for your contributions to our community. So thank you so much. Thank you all again. I inadvertently skipped over a recognition in our recognitions portion. It is a tradition here with our group that when a member of our workforce or school district family passes away, once we are notified and we see the obituary, we do like to make note of it and to let everyone know, our board and our community alike, that the obituary is posted in our board docs online, and you can find it as well with the Herald. But we have an obituary on our agenda this evening for Pamela Marie Ford, who passed away. And I would like to ask you all to please join me in a moment of silence honoring her memory. Thank you. We'll begin our reports to the board section this evening. And the first report this evening will be Francis Guerrero from YEA. Francis, welcome. Come on up.
Good evening. I apologize for my casual Friday wear. I thought I would have time to change and I didn't. Tonight for staffing, I would like to speak about the nurses, and I'm going to begin with a statement from a former nurse, and I want you to know that it was a struggle whether or not to do this. I spoke with the head reps and we discussed it, and it's not something that we want to have to bring up, but I think it's very important that the board be as informed as possible. And this is a powerful statement from a former nurse. To whom it may concern, I worked as a nurse in the district for just under a year based in an elementary school. During a half-day shift, I stayed until lunchtime to administer insulin since a health assistant couldn't give injectable medications. During a staff change, I had to manage 2 diabetic 5th graders and a kindergarten student needing an inhaler before PE, all at the same time. The health assistant helped administer the inhaler while I counted carbs and performed calculations for the diabetic patients. Noisy and overcrowded with lunch trays and 5 people in a small office, the wrong patient scale was used to determine the insulin dose. I quickly notified my superior, monitored the student, contacted the parent, and had the student picked up to be monitored closely by the parents at home. The next day, HR conducted an investigation and I was placed on administrative leave. Despite being told I was a, quote, great nurse and the staff had nothing but great things to say about me, end quote, I was asked to resign due to potential liability concerns. As a school nurse, I was responsible for over 500 students, handling everything from minor injuries to emergency care and managing a variety of medications. In a 2-hour time frame, on most days, a school nurse will perform numerous evaluations, scheduled medications, administering insulin, tube feedings, and other routine care. The overwhelming demand, particularly during lunch, recess, and PE, makes it difficult to provide care without mistakes. The lack of staff support and the high-pressure environment can lead to errors. As the only healthcare provider in the school, the nurse is solely responsible for all medical tasks, which can be overwhelming, especially when also required to document every student interaction. In addition to the high volume of students, nurses must handle those with social, emotional, or behavioral issues. We are responsible for creating healthcare plans, coordinating with doctors' offices, and communicating with parents, often complicated by lack of participation or missing documentation. This requires extensive phone calls, emails, and meetings. School nurses also perform vision and hearing screenings and ensure students are up to date on vaccinations. The district faces a serious staffing and support issue, not a nursing problem. Expecting one nurse to manage high-risk medications while also addressing behavioral and emotional challenges is unsustainable. Penalizing nurses for mistakes in these conditions creates a culture of fear and dishonesty where staff feel compelled to hide errors to protect their jobs. This culture is already causing the district to lose skilled healthcare professionals, and it will persist until staffing shortages and current protocols are properly addressed. The nurses of Yakima School District urge you to support changes that improve student safety. The first is increasing nursing staff, especially during peak times like lunch, recess, and PE. The second is implementing a system for safely administering high-risk medications, such as double nurse checks and verification systems used in hospitals. Supporting nurses through adequate staffing and improved systems for administering high-risk medications will not only prevent future errors, but also retain dedicated healthcare professionals. The health of our students is at risk, and without these necessary changes, the district will continue to lose valuable staff and ultimately compromise student safety. I urge you to take immediate action to provide the support needed to create a safer and more effective healthcare environment for both students and staff. Sincerely, a former nurse of the Yakima School District. I was at a training recently, and one of the things that came up was an incident where the union had to file against the district on a PERC violation, and it took months. And the superintendent was clueless about the situation. So I apologize that I have not had time to bring this to your attention, but I just kind of assumed that our superintendent would know because this has been an issue for years. I have been going at it with HR for most of this year. Our nursing staff needs to be higher. We have 19 nurses covering over 20 buildings. That is not adequate. What I keep fighting with HR about is allowing my nurses plan time, which all of my members are guaranteed in the contract, and duty-free lunch time. They contend that our nurses are allowed to delegate, but there are certain things that you are not allowed to delegate. And that, what I just read right there, that is one of them. Insulin injections cannot be delegated. It has to be a registered nurse that does that. You have to look at each individual student every single day at lunch. Look at the meal that they're eating. Calculate the carbs in that meal. Look at what their dosage should be, and then make the calculation for the injection. You've got to be really skilled to do that. We don't have the staffing for our nurses to be doing that to the best of their ability. They're doing it under very harried conditions. I have asked TNL to have every admin provide me at least the lunch schedule for my nurses, like at least show me that you are actually providing a duty-free lunchtime for them. And they sent me schedules that supposedly showed who was covering the nurse. But you're not really covering the nurse if all you're doing is lining up those students outside my door while I eat my lunch. All you've done is back up my work and create a tense and anxious kind of work environment while I'm trying to get through all of these students. We have maybe, I'm going to read you a bunch of examples of the kinds of things that our nurses have to deal with. We have 874 students who suffer from asthma in the district. Our nurses are dealing with 874 potentially asthmatic incidents. Anaphylaxis, potentially 203 students are at risk of that. Seizures, 159. Students on very intense medication that can't be delegated. You can delegate Tylenol, you can't delegate these kind of medicines. We've got 43 of those. We have 4 students with a pacemaker. We have 31 diabetes type 1 and 22 diabetes type 2. We have 14 students with a, I'm going to pronounce this wrong, ventriculoperitoneal shunt. We have 93 students with cardiac conditions. We have 176 students that need daily medication and 47 students who need it like on as needed basis. We have 1,637 students with health care plans that are managed by the nurse. 19 nurses are doing all of that. When you look at the number of times that a student has visited the office, in 2023, it was 47,473. 2024, 58,082. As of February this year, we're already at 36,164. That is an insane amount of office visits to be documenting and taking care of, and not under ideal conditions and not with the kind of support that they should be getting with planned time. Our nurses having to deal with behavior issues has doubled in recent years. Like maybe they only had a couple before, but now, because we don't have enough staffing in other areas with counselors or administrators or behavior specialists, a lot of those behavior problems are just being shunted over to the nurses. If you have issues with a student who has taken medication or recreational things that they shouldn't have, the nurses are the ones that have to watch them if parents don't come and immediately pick them up. I remember a situation last year. I don't know if you remember it. I had to cover for Kavanaugh while a nurse was brought in because she had done something incorrectly. And I don't even remember what the incident was. What I do remember was being absolutely astounded and floored and speechless because my aunt is a nurse. So I know a little about something about how that runs differently than teaching. There was no binder in place. You know how I am about protocols. I am all about protocols. They had nothing. There was no binder explaining how to do X, Y, or Z in a universal way across all buildings. The situation with the statement from the nurse that I read, that happened because there was no universal protocol or training in place explaining how nurses should handle that kind of, if you have multiple students that need those kinds of injections. There should have been a different system in place that would have prevented the mistake that happened. It's been wild, wild west. And a director was assigned that's helped to clean up the system a little bit, but it's not anywhere near where it needs to be. And more importantly, staffing is not where it needs to be. You have several buildings in the district that are designated priority 1, priority 2, priority 3, with priority 1 being the most significant, with the most kind of impacted students there. There's only one nurse in those buildings. You can't tell me those nurses are getting their lunch breaks or any other break. You can't afford to turn your back for 1 second when you have that level of medical issues going on in your building. So as we are discussing staffing downtown, as we are looking at numbers, we better not be cutting nurses, but we really need to be adding nurses. We are opening ourselves up to potential lawsuits. Like the lack of nursing staffing is a lawsuit waiting to happen. It's literally endangering our students. We need to make sure that our nurses, not even adequately staffed, like super sufficiently staffed, because we're burning them out and we can burn other people out, but that doesn't necessarily put lives at risk. Burning nurses out does. Developing a reputation for not being a good place to work keeps other people from wanting to work here. And we don't want that. We want to attract the best and the brightest. So we need better work environments to attract them. I will make copies of these for you so that you can have this information at your fingertips, and I will give you copies of the nurse's statement. Thank you for helping me to advocate for nurses.
Franny, did I understand you to say that you have not spoken with the superintendent about your issues here?
This particular issue has been one for years, and so my assumption is that he knew, but I'm just apologizing in advance. After going to that training, it came to my attention that superintendents don't always know things that you think they should know, especially if it's been an issue for years.
It might be helpful for the board if those conversations were to happen. And it doesn't matter who initiates the conversation, but
And I would wait, right? And because we are meeting this Friday, but staffing is happening now. So I wanted to bring it to your attention now, not when it's too late.
And you have spoken to us about staffing at, I think, nearly every meeting for the last few months. So you might want to put that on your agenda for when you talk to the superintendent.
Of course.
Thank you.
Thank you, Franny, for being here. Sorry, yes, Dr. Green.
Thank you. I just wanted to acknowledge a couple things. And first and foremost, I appreciate that pullback on being clueless, certainly not clueless as to what's happening across the district. And we really do value the personnel that we have in our district. And I really appreciate Franny, the effort that she made at the end of February. So she was part of a op-ed that actually she submitted to the Yakima Herald. It was a joint op-ed. And it was an editorial. And in this editorial, we made the statements that it's inexcusable that a state as rich as Washington underfunds education and opts to determine success by zip code and not by adequately funding all counties, districts, and schools. So this ran in the Yakima Herald. Inadequate funding on the part of the state based on locale is a barrier to students in the form of increased inequities. And then another portion was we implore state lawmakers to fulfill constitutional obligation to provide the critical resources that are necessary for schools. This means increasing state funding levels so that all have an adequate shot at success. And I think it's important to recognize that this is the type of advocacy that is very important to be united in recognizing that we are not fully funded in education. So when you're talking about needing nurses, I would suppose, so I would have to get you the exact numbers, but I would guess that we are funded for probably under 5 nurses in our entire district. And to have 19 is quite a benefit when you're talking about the size of our district and the lack of allocation. Similarly, we're not allocated proper funding for safety and security and many other areas. And as Franny was up here a couple of weeks ago advocating for more administrators at the building level, and now more nurses. That is something that we would really love to do. And to do that, we really need to go back and make sure that we're advocating at the legislature. Because as you know, over the course of the last 4 years, if you just take the 4 categories of transportation, MSOC, which is maintenance, supplies, and operating costs, special education, and our substitute costs, we are underfunded by $180 million just over the last 4 years. So all of that is really, not only catching up with the Yakima School District and the Yakima community, but it's certainly resonating across the state as we now see 18 districts in warning status, which is the step right before going into binding conditions. So I would again invite Franny to join me in advocating and doing what we can at the legislative level to make sure that we certainly have the adequate support funding-wise to make sure that we have all the personnel that we need across our system. Thank you.
Dr. Green, those numbers that you cited, that's based on the prototypical school model, correct?
Yes, and I can tell you those aren't exact. I would have to look up those exact numbers, which I tried to estimate a little bit high on that, so that I wouldn't create a different issue by having such wrong numbers. But if you'd like to just cite quickly, you got a couple of maybe the numbers around elementary and middle school.
So in the current prototypical model, they have a 0.76 basically nurse per 1 to 1,351 students at the elementary school. And so we know that it's not adequate to support. When we had ESSER funding, we had an opportunity to really dig in and be able to address a lot of those concerns. Fortunately, with the financial state that we're in, it's become difficult without funding sources to be able to continue to support at the level as Franny did. She disappeared. It's in the back, the level back in the corner, the level that Franny was talking about. And I mean, we look at that with nurses, we look at it with counselors due to the mental health crisis our kids are suffering from. And we're just in a really difficult state without the legislature turning loose funding to support our students.
And I would add that I have a brief that's going out, an email that'll go out to staff this week it's a monthly update on where we're at as far as the financial update, and it will have all of the attachments of the previous month. So that will be to staff this week. And then lastly, I'd like to just share that we did have several emails today just around STEM positions at the elementary level. And we are really early in the process of scheduling. So we have our principals working on what their schedules can look like. And there's a lot of change that can happen between a staffing date, which happened last week, and what the actual staffing would look like once everything's kind of shaken down and each of our principals has worked to put together the schedule for the year. So in case that comes up this evening, so we recognize that there's some angst and some anxiety as the staffing numbers come out, but we also have to wait and see exactly where those are going to fall. And sometimes things shift and decisions are made at the principal level, building level, and sometimes at the district level. And it depends on state funding here that's going to happen within the next month. So there's a lot of intangibles, but certainly that'll all be made known by, for us, by the April meeting is what we're planning to make sure that all that information is out.
Thank you.
I think my frustration that comes up from these staffing conversations really always boils back to the fact that we aren't talking about really the root cause. And maybe I'm somewhat pessimistic, but I don't anticipate the legislature changing the prototypical model in the very foreseeable future. I mean, sure, at some point in time, hopefully that would change. But we have students in our buildings day to day that, that we are caring for and teaching along the way. And they're the ones that suffer, which is more important to me even than our staff concerns are. The bottom line is we live in a world where funding follows the student. And until our enrollment numbers change, that's going to continue to be a very difficult conversation. None of us at this table enjoy these conversations. None of us like to be in this position. But we need to be discussing enrollment and increasing the academic success in our district to the point where we can attract students and become a place where families want to bring their kids and enroll their children and help our numbers rise all the way around. That needs to be a critical part of the conversation as well. And it isn't brought up in this group as often as it should be. So hopefully we can dedicate some time to that as we go forward. because this really isn't going to change in the immediate future. So thank you, Dr. Green and Director Rice, for your thoughts. We'll move on to our report from our Executive Director of Teaching and Learning, Jamie Lee, who will be addressing us on Operating Policy 2121, the Curriculum Adoption Report and the Instructional Report. Thank you, Jamie Lee.
Thank you. Good evening, Board President Beckett, Dr. Green, esteemed board members, and cabinet. Louder, better. That's the feedback I get from Mrs. Walk. All right, just a reminder that you do have a copy of the full slide deck tonight. I'm just going to highlight 5 slides for you. So we will start in presentation mode. Maybe. There we go. With our English and Spanish language arts, which is in year 2 of implementation. And so you have heard a lot about our new programs, and I have the opportunity tonight to highlight a few things for you. But I want to start with the preschool through 12th grade ELA and SLA guaranteed standards. You'll hear me speak to guaranteed standards a couple of times tonight. The process for guaranteed standard is every grade level has a set of state standards that they're expected to teach. Through teacher input from each of our schools and a refinement process, we have narrowed those down to 8 to 10 standards per grade level that teachers are going really in depth on, and we're guaranteeing that 100% of our students will master. So how do we meet those state standards? We do that through the use of our high quality instructional materials, which for preschool is the integrated program called Creative Curriculum. Each one of our curriculums selected has a strong research foundation. Creative Curriculum actually focuses on 4 areas, which are social emotional development, physical development, cognitive development, and language development through a hands-on approach. Our kindergarten through 5th grade actually has 2 partner curriculum. Our non-dual language classrooms have core knowledge language arts, which you've heard of as CKLA, and their partner curriculum for our dual language classrooms referred to as Caminos. Both of these curricula focus on the foundational reading skills necessary for students to access literature. They are grounded in structured literacy, phonics, and have a strong knowledge base. Our 6th through 12th grade curriculum is My Perspectives. This emphasizes strong creative learning and personalized learning at a different level for our 6th through 12th graders. There's opportunity for small group learning and for deeper critical thinking. This year, we have focused on building our awareness in these programs through our instructional facilitators. The instructional facilitators have had the opportunity to listen to people at the curriculum level and get training that they're then able to take back and deliver into their buildings. So one thing I want to highlight about CKLA is the pathways that are in the knowledge block. So each grade level has topics within what is referred to as a knowledge block that are before you. They're really tiny. I apologize. I tried all kinds of zooming techniques to get these to be bigger. And so what you'll see under each grade level is connections to literature, science, and social studies. And those are actually color-coded. So the teal band that you see up there is the literature focus. The purple-ish band that you see up there is the connection to science. And then the blue pathway that you see up there or band is the social studies focus. And so next to each topic is a little bar, which is color-coded to show what area of content that's focused on. But then the pathways are demonstrating how each one of those topics builds from kindergarten all the way through 5th grade. So for example, when looking at the science pathway, you'll see that in kindergarten, it starts with the 5 senses, and then it moves to the human body in grades 1, 2, and 3, which focuses really on different systems within the body. So our 1st graders are learning about the skeletal system, and then our 2nd graders begin to learn about other systems like the respiratory system, ending all the way with chemical matter in 5th grade. And then with our social studies pathway, you'll see that it starts in kindergarten with colonial times and then ending all the way with Native Americans in 5th grade. The opportunity for our students to receive integrated curriculum like this really builds their background knowledge and allows them to access deep literature. A student work highlight that we have in our district is we are in year 3 of our annual Voices contest, and I'm happy to announce this year we had 132 submissions, which is up from 77 submissions last year. So that's a 40-ish% increase. Of those 132 submissions, over 20 came in Spanish, which demonstrates progress towards our biliteracy goal. Last week, 2 weeks ago, a team came together and read all 132 submissions, and 37 were selected as winners. Those winners will be officially notified by the end of the month, and then they, along with their families and each and every one of you, will be invited to attend an awards ceremony on Tuesday, May 6th from 6:30 to 7:30 at the Davis Performing Arts Center. Dr. Green has so graciously accepted the invitation to be the MC for that event. Don't be fooled, he does know about it. The portrait that you see in the corner of the screen is a art. It's the photography strand of art that was done by one of our YSD students, Kalia Wheeler from Davis High School, and that will be the cover of the anthology. Each winner will receive an anthology along with each one of our all of our school libraries for the winners. And I should have said that the winners span from grades third grade all the way through 12th grade, and we even have some staff winners in there. All right, moving on to mathematics. Although not newly adopted curriculum, we are using the guaranteed standards that I spoke to earlier also exist for math, and we are using our high quality instructional resources in the Eureka program for elementary and Reveal for the middle and high school grades to really meet those guaranteed standards. Again, another smallish picture that you see up there is an example from what we refer to as unit planning through the PLC process. Teams have come together over some PD opportunities that I'll explain later to really dig deep into their standards. We call it unpacking their standards. So they learn at a very deep level exactly what students have to do to meet those standards. And then they unpack those into learning targets and break them down over the course of the unit. And so that's, in the small picture, that's what you see on the left-hand side is the identified learning targets. And then within the middle of that picture, teams identify instructional strategies that they'll use to teach those learning targets. And then we have identified assessments that tell us, are our students meeting those learning targets? That then later leads into data analysis of those learning targets, and do we need to provide more opportunity for students within that target in the form of interventions or extensions? One thing that we are embarking on this summer for our professional development is that we will bring teams of teachers together to identify common end of unit assessments, and this will tell us as a district, are our students meeting the guaranteed standards? And what does professional learning look like? Because we are working hard to offer support for each one of our curriculum and how those are delivered in the classroom. So one big initiative that we have is our professional learning community, which is the district. And underneath that, we have professional learning teams that operate. We have given professional learning teams time on Mondays to work through the PLC process, really focusing on answering the 4 PLC questions. And then on Wednesdays, we have given the district-directed early release Wednesdays to our teams to work on the products. So they're moving through analyzing the guaranteed standards, breaking them down into learning targets, designing their unit plans, designing the common formative assessments or common end of unit assessments, and really using that time. One thing I did want to highlight from these professional development opportunities is February 26th was an early release Wednesday. We initiated a survey and had over 200 responses, of which we had some very positive comments. So when asked on that survey, what did you find most beneficial in supporting your practice from today's PD session? I chose 3 responses that actually captured multiple responses from that survey. One teacher reported, being able to have time to plan as a team and break down standards into bite-sized pieces for effective teaching and always having great support from our admin and IF. Another teacher reported, we got to really look through our math module 5 and focus on standards and how to test student knowledge. And a third teacher reported, having time for backwards planning provided us with the opportunity to ensure we are meeting the guaranteed standards, evaluating assessments, etc. We use these survey results to guide how we roll out and plan our next professional development opportunities. In addition to those early, this clicker does not love me. in the early release Wednesdays and Mondays, we also once a month bring our principals and assistant principals together in a PLT where they also engage in the same type of learning. Our instructional facilitators or our instructional coaching model have received support in the unit planning process and how they take that back to their building. This year, we have also had Megan Anderson-Riley and Tanya Randolph in partnership with Human Resources and the BEST Grant really lead our coaches through what's called Mentoring Matters, so improving their coaching abilities with a focus on new to the profession teachers. Those occur once every month. So the IFs come together with 2 meetings a month. One is always focused on mentoring. Additionally, our elementary IFs have received math coaching on math foundational skills and designing how they can take that back and implement that into their building so that they're really building an understanding of math foundational skill delivery in their building. And another area of focus that we have had with our instructional coaches is that of our multilingual learners. Again, Megan Anderson-Riley, Ashley Mandrell, and Molly Byers have focused on delivering instructional practices and supports for multilingual learners to our instructional coaches that they can then take back to their buildings. It's very critical that our students are receiving support in their core classrooms as well as in their English language development classes. Any questions on all of that?
Jamie, for the benefit of our folks that are watching online or come in later on to watch the board meeting, could you explain backwards planning?
Yeah, so the unit planning that I spoke to. So with unit planning, we're asking teacher teams to come together in the collaborative PLT model and work on their guaranteed standards. So they'll take an upcoming unit and identify what guaranteed standards are going to be taught in that unit. Then they read through the standard, locating verbs and breaking down what do our students actually have to do in order to meet this standard. They break that down into learning targets, so sizable chunks that they teach to. That's when then they'll align their instructional practices. How are we going to teach to these standards to ensure our students master them? Chunking and checking is a common phrase, so making sure that we're doing little checks along the way so that we can intervene when students aren't understanding before we get to the end of a unit or the end of a standard, which we refer to as common formative assessments and then also common end of unit assessments. The common word is common amongst our team. And then once that assessment is given in our unit plan, we come back together as a team, we look at student work and student data. And we analyze that and focus on what did our students do well on, and then what do they need extra time and support in, and how are we going to deliver that? And that could come in a variety of ways. Is it 2 students that need extra time and support or extension? Is it our whole class, or is it a small group? And how can we tailor that so that we're meeting our student needs? Do we need to switch whole classes, or can I just pull a group of 5 kids, or can I just work one-on-one? And then from that, then we move on to our next unit. And I do want to also point out that there are other standards that we refer to as, it kind of sounds silly, but a butterfly or a rock standard. And so those are the smaller standards that students also have to be exposed to, where we teach a whole bunch of standards within a grade level. And they are expected to learn those standards, but we have not identified them as being necessary to master the critical content in the next grade.
Thank you very much. It's an informative presentation.
Thank you. Okay, thank you.
Appreciate it very much. Our third report this evening will be from Cassie Davidson, Director of Child Nutrition, who will present on child nutrition services. Welcome, Cassie. Thanks.
Green. There we go. Thank you, President Beckett, board members, Dr. Green, for having me here this evening. We just wanted to go over a little bit about what child nutrition has been doing. We're working on this year and what the next few years look like for us. Let's see if I'm less challenged here. No. Thank you. Perfect. Okay, thank you. So currently, aligning with the strategic plan for the district, the Child Nutrition Department continues to work and have working relationships with students in the district with special needs. We currently have 3 alumnus with special needs that graduated in previous years working in our kitchens, and we have 3 that are still in high school, like at Davis High School, with special needs who also help in the kitchen, which has been a tremendous support for us. And I mean, it's just a really good win-win situation for everyone. And we're actually got a few more that are knocking on our door to see what we can do for them in the future as well. Moving on to a grant that we're working on. It's a, oh, this is me, huh? There we Perfect. Back there. Perfect. Okay. The Yakima School District is partnering with several other school districts around Sela School District, West Valley, Ellensburg, and a potential continuing partnership with Northwest Harvest. All of us have put in a lot of work in the SCALES grant, which is a USDA grant. And what that grant could potentially do for us is develop amongst these other districts, scratch cooking, implementation, optimizing food ordering systems for local foods. We'll be working with farmers and trying to streamline that process, also known as farm to school. Continuation with Northwest Harvest as a storage facility and distribution center for our district. And currently right now this is Vieira Bakery, this is just, I don't know if you know where that is. It's just right over just a stone throw away from here. But they're going to be making billios for us and some dinner rolls, and they're completely compliant. They're made with local grain grown here in Washington State. We are actually looking to see if they can do a few other products for us, but those will begin next year. We've got the contract in place, so. And then with this SCALES grant as well, we will be partnering with local potato and pear farmers, potentially onions and apples as well. But and then some of the other local farmers or companies that we're using right now is Washington beef. All of our beef, I'm proud to say, is 100% beef from. We get it from Raised Meats, which is from Washington beef, and we don't have any additives or any additional undesirable food added to those patties. So this grant will be announced at the end of April in 2025. It's a 2-year grant after that, so we'll hear some good news from that, and we'll take it from there. The Yakima School District is not ahead of this. It'll be Sela School District will be in charge of the funds and everything, so we'll just be part of it, but we don't have the bookwork to do behind it, which is kind of nice sometimes. And then the next slide, I'm going to mess this up, Barb. Perfect, thank you. So, got some ladies here, but just hold on 1 second. So I found out this last month that there is an award by the United Way of King County, which these 2 ladies are up here in front. It is a Closing the Hunger Gap Award, and this is what United Way said. The United Way of King County would like to recognize Yakima School District Child Nutrition Department for their outstanding work to close the participation and access gap between school lunch and school breakfast, ensuring that every student in your district has the opportunity to access healthy school breakfast to start each day. You have all launched and sustained such an impactful program, and we would like to present you with our first annual Closing the Hunger Gap Award, and there's an award of $5,000, and we're really proud of that. This stems from the program of Breakfast After the Bell in all of our elementary schools, with the exception of 2. We serve breakfast in the classroom. Our numbers have greatly increased because of that. And then we do a grab and go type model in the middle schools and what's called second chance breakfast at the high schools where they get to eat. They can eat prior to school starting, and then right after first period, they have another opportunity to grab breakfast then. And our numbers have increased tremendously since we started this program, which it's been great. It's been busy, but great. Moving on. Thank you, Barb. The next exciting news that our department is taking on is we are partnering with a nonprofit called eatreal.org. And Eat Real is an organization that's dedicated to school districts to help child nutrition programs with making cleaner, healthier food choices for our students, helping us with farm to school contracts to close those gaps. This month in March is our assessment month, so we've given all the information to them about every single food item that we have in our menus right now. And so they will be assessing that. We'll get the results mid-June sometime. And all of these, the standards that Eat Real has are above and beyond what USDA requires of us now. So we'll be ahead of the game when next year comes along and some of those new standards are in place. So we have already begun to eliminate the process of eliminating undesirable food additives. We were given a list of, I think it's 4 or 5 pages long of food additives that none of us really need, like nitrates, sulfites, phosphates are some of the big ones. But they're just, most of them are just for either color enhancement or preserving the food or making the texture, a little bit better one way or the other. So, and we just don't need them. There's just no reason for our students to be able to have to consume that. So, and then it also goes on, we'll be reducing sugars, like I said, way ahead of the USDA regulations. And then they help us with structure, training staff, and we're going to be doing a lot more scratch cooking than we used to. We kind of have taken a roller coaster on scratch cooking. When I first started 20 years ago, scratch cooking was probably about 50%. And then and we had a food service management company come in. A lot of those foods were frozen, just freezer to table or freezer oven to table. And now we're starting to go back to more scratch cooking. This process will take about 23 or 24 months. So it's not going to happen overnight. I will tell you, for those that don't know this, one of the ways that we're going to be able to reduce added sugars is, drum roll, we're probably going to no chocolate milk, which it's mixed.
You just heard every child in the district go boo.
Yeah. There's potential. We may do it one time a week, but with the added sugar restrictions starting next year, we're assuming that our dairy is already taking steps to reduce sugars there. But as of right now, our chocolate milk has 22 grams, I believe, of added sugar. And we cannot have any more than 12 grams of added sugar per meal. So it makes it really, really hard to even put the chocolate milk in there anyway. We had actually made our mind up to eliminate it except for one day a week at lunch, but now we're not even sure 100% if we'll be able to do that. But, we start our kids out in preschool. They start with white milk. And so why do we start giving them chocolate milk in kindergarten? I don't know. But there will be, I'm sure, tons of controversy on that. We're going to get information out through Parent Square and as soon as we can. It should be shortly. Yeah. We're going to be getting information out about the program. So come September or August, September, the kids aren't just going to be completely shocked. But I'm really, I love chocolate. I love milk. I don't like chocolate milk, but it doesn't make any sense. But I think it'll be a good thing for our kids. And it may take a few years for them to get used to it, but, whatever it takes. So can you go to the next slide, please? Thank you. So Eat Real certification that goes above and beyond federal guidelines. They have 10 evidence-based standards that they measure by 34 key performance indicators covering nutrition, sustainability, and overall transparency. And to become certified, the district must meet meet each standard minimum required and earn an overall score of a minimum of 60% or higher. Next slide, please. These are the standards that they go by. Reducing sugar, we've talked about. Whole grain carbohydrates, we're already there. We serve very, very few refined carbohydrates. We'll occasionally stick in a white pasta or a white rice. It's more palatable for the students, but we'll eventually get to complete whole grains. We're really close right now. We're probably about 80%. Yeah. Fresh produce, we will now serve a fresh produce, fresh fruit at every breakfast. Sometimes we will do like we have currently and have in the past. They'll get either a cupped fruit or frozen fruit processed in some way. And so all breakfasts will have fresh fruit every single day. At lunch, they will have a fresh fruit and a fresh vegetable every single day as well. Sometimes we will be able to get in a few frozen fruits and vegetables that way, but we are going away from canned products, except for potentially applesauce will probably be the only canned fruit that we do. But we will be probably about 90% fresh produce for our kiddos. Healthy fats then, using olive oil instead of canola oil or butters. Minimal processing, that's where our menus will be more from scratch cooking. And so it's amazing to see how many foods are highly processed. I've just been researching probably 6 to 8 months now, and it's unbelievable with the products that are in foods today. So sustainable resourcing or sourcing, we'll get to that in just a little bit with one of my wish lists that I'm going to bring to your attention. Responsible protein. So we've just signed a contract recently with a chicken company. It's not local, but it's in California. But they serve whole muscle meat chicken with some of them are completely no antibiotics, but they don't have any added preservatives that we don't need. It's one of the cleanest labels of chicken products that you can purchase. We're really, really excited. We actually had a taste testing today with other districts here in this very room, and it went over quite well. It's a product I know that the students are going to just love. Our menu will have more variety. Our hope too is then to minimize food waste. We actually are going to start a program, hopefully at Garfield. I'm talking with Steve here shortly in the next week or two on a waste study. So we'll start with one school and go on from there. And then we're going to just educate our families. We want to have cooking classes with our families to teach them how to cook healthier and educate our students at the same time what foods are good for them and what foods are not. So I'm really excited about this program. I think our meal counts are going to go up. And if you turn to the next slide, thank you. This shows what in the last 4 years, our breakfast and lunch numbers. 2021, 22, that was when we were coming off of COVID, and we were still able to serve the summer meals program that way. And any student from anywhere, any child under the age of 18 could eat. That's why those numbers are elevated. And then they dropped. But if you notice, 24, 25, currently we're about 20,000 up at lunches from last year and nearly 20,000 up from breakfast last year. So we're really pleased about that our numbers, even though sometimes enrollment goes down, our numbers are still going up, which is a good thing. And next, this is my little wish list here. It's a big wish list. But I had the opportunity to take a look at one of the Eat Real school districts that were just certified down in California. And one of the projects that they had taken on was a vertical freight farm. And these are amazing. It's just the size of a semi-truck, and it has a vertical farm inside of it. It only takes a 5x10 concrete pad. It's only 40 by 8 by 9.5 feet high. It only needs about 5 gallons of water a day. And then there's the kilowatts. I'm not an electrician, so I can tell you what it is, but I don't know what it means. 171 to 268 kilowatts average power daily. And it operates in any climate from 40 degrees below zero up to 120 degrees. So you could be in any part of the country, anywhere, and be able to grow fresh produce in this container here. One container will hold up to 8,800 plant sites in their little plugs at a single time if you're completely full. So there's 36,960 linear growing space inside this little container. It can produce 2 to 6 tons depending on what kind of products that you grow, but 2 to 6 tons of produce can be harvested annually. One freight farm would feed most of the salad greens for a high school. So, I mean, I've talked with principals and CTE. We want to get them involved. And when I bring this up, they all wanted I wanted it at my school. I wanted it at my school. So the average cost is about $225,000. That is completely, that is delivered and completely set up with education for 10 people. And we're currently looking for grants to fully fund that product. I would love to, before I retire, to have 4 of them on site somewhere, but we're going to try to shoot for 1 to start. Then it would help out there. And there's a picture of it here. This actually, someone had asked me if this, and I first asked too, if this picture was crooked or upside down or sideways, and it's not. It's actually the way it's supposed to be. So on the right and on the lower right, the silver part, that's the floor, and then the plants are growing vertically. It's really cool. We're gonna actually hopefully go down to Heritage University. I think has one, and we're gonna go visit that. But we do have a team of collaborators we meet about once every 3 weeks to keep plugging away. We're hoping within the next couple of years, this is something that we can get funded and get going and get the kids, CTE kids would be involved in keeping this up and running and growing. And the identified stakeholders. Okay, here we go. So upcoming opportunities. So we do have our work cut out for us, especially with the Eat Real project, but we were excited, and since we're in food and we love to research food anyway, it kind of just makes it easier. But identifying clean labels and minimally processed foods is it has been a little challenging, but the more you research it, the more you know where to go to find like products. So it's just a matter of taking the time to do that. We've already got the menu set up for the fall. All menus, some menus, elementary menus are set up for the fall to fall into the Eat Real category. The rest of them will come really shortly. I've been contacting farmers. We actually went to a summit last Thursday, Friday in Spokane, where we had the opportunity to meet with farmers and local growers around local dairies to try to get contracts with them and let the farmers understand what school districts' needs are in order to be able to bring farm to school. And again, we're working on funding resources and searching for grants. I actually have a grant watch. I check every morning to make sure there's something out there that we can take advantage of or to work with. And we're working with a nonprofit out of the freight farm. There's a nonprofit, Live Oak Solutions, who actually goes out and looks for grants for freight farming or vertical farming. So we are working with them as well. There's no cost to us. They just go out and help us find some money. And that's what we're hoping. And that is the end. And if you have any questions, I would love to answer them for you.
No questions, but just a comment. I'm excited about some of the things you're talking about. I hope we can make them happen.
It will happen. It will happen. I promise that they will happen, or I'm not going to retire. So thank you.
Cassie, this was very informative, and I appreciate you taking the time to pull this together for us. It's been a while since we've had a presentation from Nutrition Services. Given the chaos, I guess I'm going to use that word, going on back east with all of the federal stuff. Have you heard anything about the grants from USDA or any other funding that we get from the federal government being impacted for school meals?
At this moment in time, no. I'll rephrase that. Yes, I have heard about it. No, I don't believe at this time we're going to be impacted. With some of the cuts that may be coming, our district is at a high enough free reduced percentage that I really don't see anything happening. We are way above where the norm is. Other districts, surrounding districts, maybe who just have one or two schools, they potentially could be have some type of impact, but I do not see it impact at all here. I think we'll continue to do CEP, which is the Community Eligibility Provision Program, and I don't see that going away anytime soon, which is great. That's 100% free meals for breakfast and lunch for all of our children.
Thank you.
Seeing no other questions?
I have a comment if I could.
Please do.
So I just want to acknowledge Cassie's work to put as much thought, energy, and initiative into child nutrition for our kids. I mean, she's always been dedicated, but what I so appreciate is her continued efforts to improve what we feed our kids each and every day. I mean, she is unique in my experience working with child nutrition directors in different school districts. I mean, she's one of a kind. And I think Trevor's got a couple things he needs to say.
I think we're ready for the United Way to come up here. And is it Sarah Seelmeyer? And you have somebody with you? All right, the time is yours.
I will be brief. My name is Sarah Seelmeyer, and I'm with United Way of King County, just on the other side of the mountains. But we work with No Kid Hungry, which is a national organization to support school districts and other community partners in addressing childhood hunger across Washington state. And I don't know how I feel about the chocolate milk news, but we are thrilled to be recognizing Yakima School District for their bold and decisive steps to ensure that every student starts their day with the nutrition they need to learn, grow, and thrive by implementing breakfast after the bell. By making breakfast a seamless part of the school day, they have removed barriers that often prevent students from eating in the morning, whether that's the stigma of eating in an empty cafeteria or the tough choices between joining before school activities and having a healthy meal. This program has really supported the entire school community, providing students with the opportunity to start their mornings together in the classroom over a shared meal, fostering connection, and setting a positive tone for the day. I also particularly want to recognize the leadership of Cassie and Superintendent Green for really setting an example for schools and school districts across the state in how to prioritize equity, innovation, and student-centered solutions to ensure that no child starts the day hungry. That is something that should be commended and celebrated every day that you all are doing this. And so it is our privilege to present the Closing the Hunger Gap Award to Yakima School District for their dedication, leadership, and impact in closing the hunger gap for their students. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Oh.
Okay.
While we're doing that, I just want to extend my appreciation to the staff in the various school buildings that help support the Breakfast After the Bell program. Without their support, none of this would be possible.
Thank you again, Cassie. And thank you to our friends from the United Way of King County. We appreciate you very, very much. That brings us to section C, our updates section for the board agenda this evening. We'll begin with updates from members of the board. Do either of you have anything to add tonight?
Not at this time.
I just have a couple of things. We are at the point in the legislative session where bills have crossed over to the opposite house from which they originated. So House bills have moved to the Senate, Senate bills have moved to the House, and that resulted in a whole lot of bills going away, as usually happens. This week, there will be a couple of important hearings. We've got the Senate Bill 5041, which deals with unemployment benefits for striking workers. Senate Bill 5192, which is the MSOC bill that's still in play, and Senate Bill 5263, which is the special education bill that is still in play. Both of those, the hearings are on Thursday, I believe. So if you wanted to log in, you can register for those hearings and log in to watch the hearing, or even sign up to have testimony if there is something that you really feel strongly about. This is also, oh no, that was last week. The legislature are doing town halls, and our representatives, the House of Representatives, that town hall was last week. I don't know that I had seen this information prior. In the Senate, I don't see the Senate schedule on here, but you could probably find it on the legislative website or on the web pages for our legislators.
Thank you very much. My only inquiry, I guess it isn't really a report as a board member, but an inquiry, Dr. Green, I'm curious if we either have our board member attendance already factored into board docs somewhere, or if that is something that could be factored for a report for our board.
I can certainly provide the board with a report on that. We would have to go through the documents from each board meeting, but we do have that capability, and Barb she's anxious and excited.
I wondered if it was already in something, or if that needed to be manually done. So please, Barb, forgive me for asking.
She is thrilled. She's like, yes.
She's really excited. If we could have that for our next board retreat, I think that would be helpful for a discussion. Thank you. Thank you for that.
Oh, nothing. Just one other informational thing for board members. If you haven't been watching your emails, we're getting reminders your F1 is due by April 15th, which is your financial report to the state. So.
Okay, then Dr. Green, I'm sorry, superintendent's update, please.
Yes, thank you. I'm going to leave everything in public content so it can be accessible to the public. But I only have one item, given how much we have this evening, that I'd really like to share with the board. And this is just a quick note from Jeff Snell, who is the superintendent of the Vancouver School District. He's also served as the president of the Superintendent's Association previously in his tenure. And it says, "Dear Dr. Green and the Yakima School Transportation team." So you remember that Art Rodriguez presented here, our last board meeting, did such a wonderful job. But this just adds to the impact of some of the things that are happening in the way that people reach out and support one another. It says, "On behalf of the Vancouver School District, I want to extend a heartfelt gratitude for the incredible support and generosity of your transportation team, which they provided for a bus that broke down during the state basketball tournament in Yakima. When we received word from our driver about the breakdown, transportation supervisor Art Rodriguez and his team stepped up in an extraordinary way. Art's quick response, coordination with his shop, and effort to arrange overnight delivery of the necessary parts made all the difference. In the meantime, his willingness to loan us a bus, going as far as to check if it had time to clean it before handing it over, was a true act of kindness. This kind of support exemplifies the best of what it means to be part of the greater Washington education community. It wasn't long ago that Vancouver Public Schools had the opportunity to support Pasco students in a similar fashion, and we were reminded once again how important it is to look out for one another. Your team's generosity not only ensured that our students could continue their experience at the state tournament, but also demonstrated the deep commitment Yakima School District has to serving others. We are grateful to return the loan bus with a mostly full tank, though no amount of fuel could truly express how thankful we are for your help. Please pass along our sincere appreciation to Art Rodriguez and everyone involved in making this happen. Their kindness and professionalism did not go unnoticed. Thank you for embodying the spirit of service and community. We are honored to call you our partners in education. With gratitude, Jeff Snell.
Thank you for that. I think that takes us to our calendar updates. Kirsten, welcome. How are you tonight?
Well, I'm actually a little controversial about the chocolate milk thing, but I was thinking back to Gilbert Elementary, of which I'm a graduate, and I think we got chocolate milk like once, maybe twice a week. I've been conferring with my sister, twice a month. So they'll survive. They'll survive. Also, in lieu of time, I'm going to just mention a couple of things that are on the calendar. One is your next meeting, which is March 31st at 4 p.m. That will be at Discovery Early Learning Center, and it will also include a presentation from K-8 Virtual. And then wanted to bring to our community's attention that it is time for our spring musical at Eisenhower, The Music Man. That starts this Thursday, the 20th, and has quite a run, including 2 Saturdays with shows at 2 and 7, and the evening shows then are at 7 o'clock. And then just wanted to mention to everybody that it is staff award season. So if you do have a nomination for a classified or certificated staff, those are online at ysd7.org/staff awards, and they are due April 13th. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your update. Is Mr. Cooper with us virtually?
I am.
Excellent. Thank you for being here, Jake. I'll turn it over to you for the monthly financial update.
You bet. Thank you, President Beckett, members of the board and community. Apologies. My in-laws came into town all the way from Australia, so I'm married to an Australian. So when they arrive every decade or so. So I had to go get them in the airport, and that's why I'm remote this evening. So enough with my personal issues and concerns. I'll get right into it. First off, let's look at the executive summary, the highlights. Cash flow, as you will see, is slightly above projection for February, which is much place where I'd like it to be rather than below. And then as we continue to track month to month, you'll see that 5 out of the last 6 months, as we get into the data, are at or below our budgeted spending levels. So Barbara, if you want to go to the next slide. Our enrollment is actually flattened out again. As I talked about before, I overprojected secondary enrollment slightly, but our year over year has begun to flatten out. And just a reminder, for next budget year, the current enrollment projections has us down about 240 FTE, predominantly the lower kindergarten class sizes and the graduation on the top side going out. So this is the previous slide, but showing it by grade span. You can see the K-5 budget to actual, the 6-8 very close. The 9-12, again, the over projection. Part of that, again, was the ALE numbers, as you can see. Those are continuing to grow throughout the year. So my hats off to our staff at K-8 and Yakima Online. Those numbers continue to go up. Some of those numbers come from our brick and mortar schools, but some are out of district, which provide a net increase to enrollment. And you can see our running start is running right close to budget versus actual. And open door slightly above projection. So any questions? Sorry, I do remote presentations are one-sided, and I do like to interact. So just feel free to stop me. I assume President Beckett will let me know.
I will happily interrupt you if the need arises.
Thank you. Just like my family. So again, month after month, I let you know cash is king. And so green line is projected cash, blue line is the actual. You'll note for the month of February, we're in that trough. I often talk about the peaks between your fall tax collection and your spring tax collection. You can see in the two humps or spikes in the cash flow. And in that trough, we're in that trough period right now. And we are about $1 million or so, $1.5 million above projection. Just for those watching at home or in the audience, please remember that the district did borrow about $4 million to ensure liquidity throughout the fiscal year. Do note that if right now, even with the borrowed funds, we are still above our zero line, which is important. We would be about $8 million. So our trough is looking better than it did last spring, and we've stabilized our current spending levels, and we'll continue to monitor cash. This is a revenue, general fund revenue, budget versus actual. Our expenditures, as I noted, are at or less than budgeted, but our revenues are also slightly less. Correspondingly, though, when you look at the relationship between the two, our expenditures are about $1.5 million to the better than our revenue when you take into account less revenue and less expenditures. So both positive at this point in time. Barb, next slide. Again, this is the slide that is highlighted in the executive summary. Blue or teal bar actuals, and the budget is in black. So again, stable finances, which is the goal, and predictability, which has been why we're continuing to build our staffing and human resource systems to be able to allow us to accurately project staffing costs, our expenditures going forward. Okay. And then real quick, I guess this is presenter's privilege. Cassie, I do directly supervise. I'm not sure if I'm 100% on the chocolate milk boat yet either myself. So just thought for the good of the order, I'd bring that up. Cassie, we might have to talk about how many times chocolate milk occurs. But on a serious note, we are making good progress on the Eat Real front. And then President Beckett, I wanted to talk at the head of the meeting. There was some testimony about nursing, and in particular, I did want to make sure that I did pull the data when it came to spending for health-related services, and we spend about 5.2% of our budget on health-related services, which puts us about 39 out of 295 districts. Now, health-related services in the accounting side includes psychs, SLPs, but a huge chunk of nursing staff. So the data currently, and we can do a little more analysis, shows that we spend near the top of all the districts in the state when it comes to health and health-related services, just as a point of privilege in that regard. Any questions?
Any questions from the board?
Okay.
Comments?
I do have one question. When you mentioned the health, some of our health expenditures, I believe some of our special ed students benefit from Medicaid services. Is that correct?
Yes, sir, they do.
And are those services at risk with the current federal budget that's showing $880 million reduction in Medicaid?
Not that I'm aware of currently. And just as was spoken about earlier in the meeting, most of what we're hearing at the federal level is at least conjecture from my colleagues at this point. We're hearing most likely the concept of block grants and flow through. Our Medicaid reimbursement currently is still under about $250,000 a year. So we have work to do on our end to increase enrollment and then accurately bill. Those are our bigger issues more than the federal allotment. But it could be an issue going forward, Norm. But currently, that's not something that's dragging on our finances.
Okay, just want to be thinking ahead.
You bet. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Cooper.
Thank you, and it was wonderful to see you this evening.
Thank you much. That brings us to our first opportunity for public comment this evening. The first opportunity for public comment is in regards only to items that are on the agenda. And Barb has handed me a list. I'm assuming all of these from top are the red. Thank you. She's color coded it for me. She knows that going slow is sometimes helpful for me. I believe our first speaker tonight is Dawn Fawcett, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Dawn, welcome. Please come on up. And just a reminder for all of our speakers, there is a time limit, so please don't be offended if you hear the little chime in the background. It's simply to keep everybody on the same agenda. Thank you for being here.
Hello. Oh, okay. Okay, so I'm here to advocate for the nurses and the lunches. We're not getting our lunches in the district. Part of the problem is we're intersecting healthcare with education. So part of the Washington Revised Code, which is the laws of Washington, state that we have nurses. Okay, let me stop that. Nurses can't. They state what nurses can and cannot do. And no labor contract, job description, or human resource directive can supersede what Washington legislation says what nurses can do. So our health rooms are busy. We have to be there. We can't just shut the door. And if the district says, you need to take your lunch, it's in your contract. L&I says you have to take your lunch. Well, there's certain things we cannot delegate. There's certain students that require a nurse on site. So part of those WACs and RCWs, I'm going to pick out two particular violations that we can lose our license for. One is under the Washington Administrative Code is a violation of the Standards of Nursing Code conduct and practice, willfully abandoning clients by leaving nursing assignments when continued nursing care is required by the condition of the client without transferring the care to appropriate personnel. For a lot of our students, including all the diabetics and many of the others, there are no other appropriate personnel. Therefore, a nurse can't leave the building. Therefore, she can't have a lunch that is completely off duty. And even if she does get to go into the lunchroom, half of them, or I would say actually almost everybody except myself carries a radio with them. And half the time they get called for something else. We can't just shut our door like everybody else. Another one that's brought up by administration and human resource, we'll just delegate that care. You need to delegate that care. That's what you have to do. And we're going to provide this person, and that's who you're going to delegate to. Well, in addition to another violation of the Nursing Code of Conduct, which we can lose our license for, states, delegating nursing care, function, or responsibilities to a person the nurse knows lacks the ability or knowledge to perform the functions and responsibilities. So we can't just delegate to anybody. And we get to decide who we delegate to based on our assessment of that person and the knowledge that they possess. So we aren't getting our lunches. You're legally required to give us our lunches, and we want them. Thank you.
Thank you, Dawn. Thank you for being here tonight. Next speaker on my list is Tara Gaston. Am I pronouncing that right? Sorry. Welcome. Please come on down. And from Garfield, is that correct?
Yes.
Excellent. Okay.
Hello, everybody. I'm the school nurse for Garfield Elementary. I'm going to keep it as short as I can. I'm reading it off of things. I hate public speaking. On any given day, we take a great deal of liability. Nurses take care of anywhere from 300 to 1,200 plus students. That job doesn't pause just because we are mandated to take a duty-free lunch. The potential liability is what keeps us from feeling safe, delegating our duties to untrained, non-medical staff and asking non-medical personnel to cover a health room. It's reckless, considering it can potentially come, and for anything that can potentially come through the door at any minute. The letter from the former nurse was powerful. She was asked to resign as a result of an error that she made in an overworked, busy health room, and it could happen to any of us. We don't just put on Band-Aids. We take responsibility for all-encompassing health and wellness of an entire district. That includes staff as well. For almost all other positions within this district, there are people with similar credentials to take over those duties for others so that they may take their duty-free lunch. We don't have that. I think that we can all agree that we are not going to have that anytime soon. Nurses deserve to be paid for their lunches. I would also like to add, and I don't mean this disrespectfully, Most of us put forth the effort to be the best team members that we can and are constantly working on how we can advance our practices and skills to benefit all district members. Just like the teachers that were recognized here tonight for their efforts in becoming board certified. 12 out of 19 of us have completed the rigorous testing that is required to become board certified school nurses. There's no recognition for our efforts, yet the effort was great. This certification is not required. It is a choice for us, one that we make so that we can ensure that we are providing the very best care for our students and staff. All that we are asking is that for the district to choose to be fair, supportive, and legal when it comes to us taking our lunches. Our lunches are never uninterrupted. And because of that, according to the Washington State Department of Labor and Industries, we should be paid. Thank you.
Thank you, Dawn and Tara, both for being here tonight. That takes us to the approval of our consent agenda. The consent agenda in board documents tonight includes the approval of minutes for February of 2025, notification of approval of the warrants for February of 2025, approval of personnel actions, the budget status reports for February 2025, and the interlocal agreement with YSD and Northeast Washington ESD 101. Would any member like to have any item from this consent agenda removed from the consent agenda and discussed in full this evening?
I move to accept I move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of approving the consent agenda, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. We are now at our second opportunity for comments from the public on all other agenda or non-agenda items. Barb, is this list still accurate? I believe the first person on this portion is Kelly Clift. Kelly, would you like to come on up, please?
Good evening. I am writing and talking with you today to ask you to help us preserve Gilbert's STEAM program. Since the STEAM program was brought to Gilbert in 2022, we have seen dramatic increases in our SBA scores. True, these scores were the result of a lot of intentional planning within the classroom teacher / principal / IFPLTs to adjust our practices to help our post-COVID students to close the achievement gap. But a thread that runs through the grade level PLTs is the STEAM program. Our STEAM teacher came to every team and listened to what we needed from her to support student learning. And then she took that information and developed the most amazing and engaging lessons that helped our students develop their skills and interests. The success of the STEAM program, in conjunction with classroom teachers' intentional uses of best practices in our PLTs, helped our ELA scores to improve by 6 points, our math scores to double, and our science scores to improve by 22 percentage points. Yes, STEAM has made a huge difference at Gilbert and is one of the key components to our success. Decimating the program to a 0.2 position effectively ruins the impact that STEAM can have on all Gilbert students, from our students who are in the self-contained autism program to our regular classrooms to the highly capable population. I implore you to look at your budget and see if there is any way to save this program. Data has shown that it affected positive outcomes for our Gilbert students. Having STEAM programs have enhanced grade level teachers' work and has created a culture where students are beginning to become more critical thinkers while developing their curiosity and their creativity. Having a successful STEAM program at Gilbert is also good for the district's bottom line. Other neighboring districts use STEAM as a way to entice families to enroll their child in these other districts. The Yakima School District could use the STEAM program to keep our families and students here. And if we develop it even further, we too could market this program as a reason why families should be sending their kids to YSD. I realize that budget cuts are hard and that every cut has consequences. My ask is that you take a close look at every building and its programs to figure out which each building needs to flourish and fund accordingly. For Gilbert, it's keeping our STEAM program. Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly. Next on the list is, I believe, Annie Blake from McKinley. Annie, come on down. Welcome.
Okay, so Casey left, but I was going to say chocolate milk can go. I'm allergic to chocolate, so I don't care.
Oh, no.
My address is to the board. So I've been sitting on this for a year as a teacher for third grade. I've seen the effect of the budget cuts as a family member, as a school employee, as a union member, as a parent in the school district, to the point where I almost pulled my kids last year because I didn't want them to be in a school district that didn't put the children first. To you, my board members, Miss, correct me if I'm wrong, but we elect you. Is that correct? The public elects you. We choose you to represent us. You have made decisions that benefit Dr. Green, our superintendent. When do you make decisions that benefit the parents, the teachers, the paraeducators, our custodians, our cooks, and everybody else that you deem is too little and not worthy of being respected and having a voice? I just sat on, we're trying to build a family engagement. When do teachers get to have a voice in that? When do our paraeducators who have been cut to the bare minimum get a voice? When do our custodians who've been cut to the bare minimum get a voice? Speaking on behalf of the nurses, thank you, Franny, for sharing that, because now that makes me realize, I know Dr. Green, I'll be happy to send you my bill. I will now be getting a life alert bracelet so that my staff know that I have a pacemaker, because I would not want my overworked nurse to not realize, and by the way, we have a staff that rotates our nurses like crazy, to give me AFib or shock me and kill me because I have a pacemaker. Start listening. You told us, I think Jay Cooper told us at the beginning when we were doing the levy, none of the cuts would affect the children. It's done nothing but impact our children. Larger class sizes is what we're looking at for next year because you want to continue to cut teachers. We don't have proper supervision to cover breakfast after the bell in a class outside of the classroom. We don't have custodians to clean our classroom. As a teacher, I'm spending 20 instructional minutes every day feeding my children, but then cleaning up my classroom. My Clorox wipes come out of my personal funds. My Swiffer mop so I can clean my floor because there's a spill of juice or applesauce comes from my personal budget. That comes from my children's food mouths that I have to feed them. I barely make cost of living. I'm a single mom of 3 kids. And I'm about to look elsewhere because you're not paying us enough. And Jake Cooper keeps telling us over and over again, we're in a budget crisis because we keep trying to raise cost of living for our teachers so that we can live and survive. Remember, you work for us as too. It's not just Dr. Green.
Next on the list is Steve McKenna. Is Steve here tonight? There he is. Come on down, Steve. Welcome.
They heard you were speaking. It's off. Okay. My name's Steve McKenna. I'm a retired teacher, former YEA president, and I'm also a taxpayer in the Yakima School District. In examining the superintendent's new agreement that was approved at the last board meeting, It begins July 1st, 2025. I'm dismayed as a taxpayer in the Yakima School District. The base salary for the superintendent increases from $235,000 to $266,610. This is a raise of $31,610. But that's not all of the increase. Our superintendent's contract has fewer work days than nearly all superintendents in the state. The state average of work days for superintendents is 249 days for their base contracts. Our superintendent works 218 days. That's a backdoor way to give an even larger raise. The base raise also increases his daily rate for his extra work days that will add at least $10,000 to his additional $85,000 compensation for extra work days. This will bring the superintendent's total compensation next year to over $360,000 without working the average number of days that most superintendents work. The governor of the state of Washington makes $218,744 starting July 1st, 2025. The superintendent will make more than twice what the state superintendent of public instruction makes, $171,765. The superintendent led the district to the brink of financial calamity, and the board response is to increase his compensation by over $40,000, which is about a 12% increase. Does that indicate to the public that the district has a lack of financial resources? I'm asking the board to explain why the community of Yakima needs to pay our school superintendent substantially more than the governor of our entire state. The board has a fiduciary duty to the community, and I'm concerned that this duty is not being upheld. Our property taxes are increasing yearly to bear this burden. Something needs to change. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Is there a need for executive session this evening? We have no need for executive session this evening, so our next board meeting will be on March 31st at 4 p.m. And until then, we are adjourned.